I've got about 90 pages on the slide deck, but trust me, we're not doing death by PowerPoint. I hate doing that, so we're going to do a little hands-on today. We're going to probably pretend at some point that this Arcadia is fresh out of the box. I'm just going to take it down to factory default, and then we're going to build a new system, and I'll have a few volunteers come up. So anyway, so I'm Justin MG, Applications Engineering and Training Manager. The training was kind of added on to me this past year after we had a little bit of a change in management for that. Frank Linton used to be the training manager. He's now in product management. So here's a quick agenda for today. We'll do a quick overview of basics. Who here knows what two-wire is? Do you actually know the pinouts, though? No? Yeah. So we'll get into that. Let's talk about it, because that stuff is 50-plus years old, and we might as well understand how the heck it works. Hey, come on in. Sorry. Then we're going to jump into HelixNet. We'll do some wireless, some LQ, Arcadia. Who here has heard of Skyport, Gen IC? Anybody? All right, this is going to be a new product that we've now released that I think you're going to be very interested in. And then we're going to definitely dig into some IP networking. I've got a bone to pick when it comes to IP networking. And I think we all, as audio engineers, video engineers, have a bone to pick with it too. It's a pain in the butt, let's be honest. So it is something that will bite you in the butt if you're not careful. So we're going to dig into that, and we're going to talk about best practices. Luckily, I only have about 10 slides on that. But these are probably the most 10 important slides you can walk away from today. Networking will be the most important thing you talk about today. Please understand that. It's not about ClearCom, it's about the network. Because we all have to deal with Dante and AS67 and blah, 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 blah. So, and then again, we'll do a live lab. I'll get some volunteers to help me put together a new system. And again, thank you, Omega. They're giving us this location for free. The only thing I'm having to pay out of pocket is my travel, the bourbon I drank last night, and then also the lunch that I'm bringing in today. What is it, Ruby's, I think? Rudy's, not Ruby, Rudy. So Rudy's Barbecue. I got enough for 50 people, so please eat up. We're going to have that about 11:30 noon. Bathrooms are straight across there. There's 2 of them. You got some bottled water. Please don't hesitate to stop me if you have a question. I have a saying, the only stupid question is one you don't ask. My friends from NASA would probably say the same thing. The only stupid question is the one that you don't ask, because chances are there's somebody next to you that also are thinking the same thing. So don't be embarrassed by the dumbest question out there, because chances are you're not the only one. Quick introduction on my team. So I manage the applications engineering team, and then also on top of training. But I have a massive, awesome group. John is up in New York. He handles a lot of the business that's handled up in that area. I also have Greg Wolf. He's a brand new hire from the past year. Calvin's down in Florida along with Juan. Then I've got Eric Devan. Eric's actually based in Austin. He didn't have to come today. He's kind of a unique individual because he is incredibly smart and literally wrote some of the code that's in Eclipse today. And then he jumped over to the AE side, and he still makes software and products for us on the side. So he's a really interesting dude. Jeremy, another new hire, but he's out of Arizona. And then I got Sarah. Sarah's a unique one too. I stole her from Disneyland. She was the sound designer for the Star Wars, the new park that they put in. She was the sound designer and actually won a lot of awards for that. And so I stole her over, and she is just kicking butt. I love having her around too. And then also on the support side, we have a group of dedicated guys out in Alameda. That's where our headquarters is located, and up in near San Francisco. So we got Richard Spicer and his 4 guys. And then, by the way, please, if you want to put our technical support on speed dial, I would recommend you to scan that QR code and add it to your phone. I will wait for 5 seconds if you would like to do that. By all means, we are always happy to help. Keep in mind, our technical support is only 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, but they are free of charge. They will never ask for a contract number. We are here to help at any point. Did you get it?
Is that part of the deck you're sending out?
Yes. Good to go. All right. And then this is the other one. This is going to be referenced a lot today, the Solution Finder. I would recommend you bookmark this, not only on your phone, but also on your laptop. The Solution Finder has well over 4,000 articles on the public side alone. Chances are, if you have a question about something, it's in the Solution Finder, and I'm going to reference this a lot today. And then as far as our sales managers, as I mentioned, we got Mr. Franklin here. We're pretty slim group. We've only got 6 in the U.S. Yeah. So you got Jay, Vic, James, Brian, Michael Franklin's all for Texas and the southern part of the United States, and then Paul is over on the eastern side. And then along with them, if any of you are on the broadcast side, we got Chris Koch, if you ever need some assistance from him. And then these are the bosses above us, or above them. I don't work for them, thank God. I'm not a salesperson, so. All right, so 50 plus years of communication. We're going to do a very quick product overview. So, we're going to start with Encore, 1968. So, Charlie Button. Have you guys heard that name before? No? Charlie is somebody that everybody should know about, in my opinion. He is an audio genius. And he came up during, well, in the 60s when things were really fun for our parents or grandparents, and they were doing copious amounts of you-know-what, and listening to some pretty amazing rock bands. Well, out at the ballroom, do you remember the name of the ballroom?
It was Fillmore.
Fillmore? I think, yeah. Yeah, so out in San Francisco, as these rock bands were coming up, Charlie was working with Mr. Cohen. These two guys worked together at this ballroom. And they would have Janis Joplin, Eric Clapton, Santana, all these major artists are coming in and getting going into the rock industry. And Charlie was literally going in and making adjustments to these guitars and these amplifiers for these guys. And so, for example, Santana is a great example. Some of the unique sounds from Santana came from Charlie Button. And Charlie just did it. He was just that kind of guy. But then as time went on, they said, man, we need better comms. They were literally using flashlights to do Morse code from front of house to backstage to make adjustments to the audio system. So Charlie said, I'll put in a telephone system. Well, telephones didn't work very well back then. You had to scream in order to be heard. So he invented the Encore Beltpack. At the time, he didn't call it Encore. And at the time, it was a big old metal thing, the RS-100. But that box, the one requirement was it had to have an XLR that took power and that the comms were on just one line and everybody could talk at the same time. And the other main thing was you had to be able to talk at a normal volume even though a rock concert was happening right there next to you. So they invented the Encore Partyline, and this is still the same design from 55 plus years ago when Charlie built the first one. Encore Partyline from Charlie Button. There's the pinout. Keep that in mind for 2-wire. When you pick up an XLR cable and plug it into an Encore Partyline system, pin 1 is ground, pin 2 is your DC power, 30 volts DC. It's always going to be about 30 volts DC. That's just enough to power that guy up in several Beltpacks in the line. One thing that will change on that pinout, though, on pin 2, will be the amperage. And the amperage is going to determine how many Beltpacks or how much cable you can put out. And then the final pin is duplex audio channel A. So that one pin, that one cable is actually taking audio down that same pin, send and receive. As far as power supplies, we've got the typical 2-channel throwdown Partyline system. We have the rack mount 2-wire, but that one actually has the ability to be a user station. We have a 4-channel and then a 4-channel with SB, I think it is called. It's got little dip switches to change things. Isn't that end of life though? Yeah, that's what I thought. We're not selling a lot of the one on the bottom, though. So I think we're doing end of life on that here very soon.
Question real quick on that.
Yep.
The second one down. Do you still support that?
Oh, absolutely.
I have a button that the announce button is kind of broken.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of works, but I was thinking about sending it and get it repaired.
Yeah. So go to clearcom.com. I don't remember the exact URL, but if you go to the support tab, you can submit an RMA.
Okay.
They'll send you an RMA number and a shipping address, and then they'll let you know, they'll send you a quote on how much it costs for the button and hours put into it.
Got it. Okay.
Is it that color or is it the old tan PL Pro?
No, it's that color.
Okay, then yes.
It's that color.
And if it's within warranty, they might cover it, you know? All right. Well, that's the thing with Encore and Partyline like this. We've seen systems out there that are literally 40 years old that still work. They just take a beating and keep on ticking. So the only Beltpack that I'd say doesn't last is the one from Vitek days. It's about, I want to say 15, 20 years ago. You guys have probably seen it. I always refer to it as the exploding Beltpack. It's a plastic blue Beltpack. You drop that from the catwalk and it's not surviving. Do you guys need a chair? You're good? All right, just want to make sure. All right, and then here's the 3 different types of Beltpacks available to you. Obviously, the RS701 is probably the most used. It's just a single channel Beltpack, got a call button, volume control. We do have the RS702, but you'll note the RS702 has 6 pins on it because we're sending multiple channels of audio. We don't do a lot of 6 pins because that's a maintenance issue. You know, you get that cable going after a few years, something's going to break in the 6 pin. I would say the standard 2-channel one that people use is the RS703. It follows the RTS model, where you actually, on pin 2, you take the power and channel A, merge them together, and then pin 3 is your duplex audio channel B. The only requirement, though, to make that work is you need it's a TB box. It's basically a little box that takes channel A, channel B, and then one 3-pin XLR out, and that merges the comms for you. And this is just a brief example of daisy chaining versus a ring. The nice thing about a ring is that if one XLR cable gets cut, somebody unplugs it, you still got comms. If 2 of them go, you're in a different situation. Any questions on Encore?
So can you send RTS 2-wire directly into one of those 2 or 3 Beltpacks?
Yes. So if you've got the RS703, that will work with an RTS system. In fact, on the Arcadia, FreeSpeak 2 base, and the LQs, you can go into those 2-wire ports and switch it from ClearCom to RTS mode, and that then supports the RS703.
But there's no ClearCom product that directly has 2-wire outputs that directly send 2 channels. You have to have that.
Yes. Yes. You have to have that box or use the conversion digitally within the system.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the ring, I had never seen that before. So the ring just goes back to the same channel, right?
Yes.
Channel A.
Yeah, because if you look on the back of the power supply, one channel has usually three
Yeah.
XLRs.
Right.
So you could just daisy chain it back. And if you look in the back of every Beltpack, there's a male and female.
Right. God, I didn't. Now, normally our runs were going out, 1,000 feet. So
Yeah.
you don't want to run another 1,000 feet back. But yeah,
Generally you don't, but yes, you could if you wanted.
for a short one, that's pretty good.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Just by the way, keep in mind, you need to null it. You need to terminate and you need to null. Termination is basically at the base station, and within the LQ and Arcadia, you can set it to be terminated. But nulling is something where it basically balances the line, without getting too scientific here. And to be honest, I don't really understand it fully, but it basically balances the line. The fun part is, who here's in lighting before I start digging into lighting? All right, cool. So usually, if you go in the LQ or Arcadia, you can actually do auto null. It's literally a button push, and I'll show you this later. And it puts static out on the line, and that's usually when I tell the follow spot guy, hey, put your headset on, I'm gonna do a null. The follow spot guys always piss me off. So I'm gonna pick on them the most today. All right, so moving on. Any other questions? I'm sorry, for Encore. We're good? All right. So this went on for a long time. This was our bread and butter. And then we realized, okay, we're starting to get into IP. And that's when HelixNet came about. So it was from 1968 all the way to 2012 when we started getting into the IP world, and that's where HelixNet comes in. So this is actually an HMS, which is end of life now because of the Arcadia, but this was the main station that would support it. And it's the same workflow as an Encore system where you've got party lines, or in this case, we call them channels. So with those channels, though, you can have up to 24 digital channels within the HelixNet world, which means any HelixNet Beltpack, similar to the one I have here, even though this is only a 2-button system, this one Beltpack, I can still go in and say, oh, I'm halfway through production, I'm going to change key set 2 to a completely different channel. Or I can change roles. It's a very powerful party line system. This is an HX2. This is basically a remote station. We still sell these, and you can daisy chain these, so you can have 8 channels, one on the top, one on the bottom. And it's got 4 keys on there for up to 4 channels, or again, daisy chaining to do up to 8 channels. It's got a SA, stands for stage and outs, which is basically an analog audio output, or it's got program input, so you can take audio from your mixing console. It does have some I/O for doing GPIO triggers. And then it's also got a hot mic out. And then as far as the other endpoints, we also have the HKB. This is either a wall mount device, so you could just put that into the wall, like of a green room or maybe a changing room, or you can buy the S mount. We're actually doing a new design of this. It's going to be a little less heavy. This one has got a bunch of metal on it. The new one, I kind of like the new one, but it also supports Ethernet or XLR for Powerline. Almost had a brain fart. The cool thing about this is it does have 4 channels, even though it's only got 2 talk buttons. And it's just using a shift button to go between channel A, B, and C and D. Then you got the belt pack. And if you just look at the bottom, you've got your headset. You do have a micro USB connection. I'll talk about that for a second in a minute. We also have LAN, and that's PoE. This belt pack right here does not need a power supply because it is taking PoE from my little Netgear switch here. And then you've got just your headset connection. Oh, and as far as micro USB, the reason we got that on there, it isn't for updates. One of the cool things we've got is if you go out and you know those little USB flashlights that you can put on your laptop on the side, you could take a micro USB, plug it into that. In the CCM, you go in and say, hey, on this roll, if they take a call button or a call comes in, flash that USB light. So think of front of house, the old days. The audio engineer would always have a call light because they don't wear a headset. They always have their handset. Well, when we went to HelixNet, they said, hey, what about our call light? So that's what we came up with last minute. And this is just a very general look at, in this example, it's esports. There's a lot of esports. It's incredible. Why didn't I get into that industry? There is $1 billion industry. It's incredible. Then people are just playing video games. I don't understand. But in this workflow, they've just got a couple of HMSs. And the new workflow would be one big Arcadia, to be honest with you. But it's also got some wireless, Agent IC, SIP. So HelixNet really took us into the new world of connection into the IP systems that we are all having to deal with. So fast forward from 2012 to 2018, we started getting into wireless. So let's dig into that. Actually, before I dig into wireless, any questions on HelixNet? I probably should have stopped for a second.
Can you use those HelixNet packs with anything besides the HelixNet main station? Can they be used with Arcadia or Eclipse?
Only Arcadia. Eclipse does not support HelixNet.
Okay.
Arcadia definitely, though.
Arcadia is a replacement main station for the HelixNet main station, because when a common use case was a lot of people wanted wireless added to their HelixNet. Well, you only had so many ports, and you needed 2 rack units, then 2 different boxes, and you had to bridge stuff together, and it was an assay. So that's why they mixed that and made it to Arcadia.
Yep. In fact, if you look at why did the Arcadia come about, that's always been a big question. Well, the problem, if you just look at any Broadway theater in New York and you go in their rack, they've got 2 HelixNet main stations and 2 FreeSpeak 2 base stations. FreeSpeak 2 base station only supports 25 Beltpacks. HelixNet, I can't remember it was maybe 50 Beltpacks. But to tie those together, they had to do 4-wire and 2-wire back and forth. So you're using all these connections, and then, oh crap, this main station just failed. Well, now you got to go in, you got to move all the cables. No more of that. And you were limited to only 8 channels going back and forth between the 2, depending on how you configured things and different IOs with LQs and the such. So it really got to the point where you were very limited in how many connections you could have. Whereas with Arcadia, you're taking all this stuff, this GAC, and putting it into one RU system. And it's much more powerful. Any other questions on HelixNet?
How many 4-wire ports do the HelixNet have?
So on the Arcadia, you can have up to 8 4-wire ports. You have 4 2-wire ports and a bunch of Dante, and we'll definitely get into that. But on the HelixNet, on the HMS, so it depends. They actually used modules for the HelixNet main station, and each module has either 2 ports of 4-wire or 2 ports of 2-wire. 4-wire, 2-wire, yeah.
When you say they were connecting the FreeSpeaks?
Yes.
The routing for that.
So you would have to buy 2 of those modules for 4-wire, which gives you 4 total 4-wires. You would then take Ethernet cables and do 4-wire to the base station of FreeSpeak 2, which also have 4 4-wires. It's not the best workflow.
You do 2-wire to the other side of the other.
You could do 2-wire, but the problem is once you have those 2 modules in the HelixNet main station, you're maxed out on modules. However, if you go buy some LQs, you can do a link from the LQ to the HMS, and the LQ 2-wire to the FreeSpeak 2. Then that gets you a total of 8 channels connected. You can
By Arcadia.
So just buy an Arcadia. I think that's the moral of the story, yes. Yep.
It's about the SA, stage announce.
Mm-hmm.
It's a single output.
Mm-hmm.
It's at 4 wires.
Well, it's an XLR. It's a standard balanced output. So I think this is a good point for me to pause and let's talk about 4-wire. So we talked about 2-wire and pinouts. We all got that. It's not a balanced line on that XLR. In fact, I have actually seen somebody take a microphone, plug it into an Encore power supply, and they got a little tickle on their chin. Kind of like taking a 9-volt battery and sticking it on your tongue. How many of us did that as kids? Yeah, I did that. Maybe that explains a lot. So let's go to Solution Finder. Again, we're going to reference this all day. Bookmark this guy. But if you go to the front page of Solution Finder and you scroll down, one of the most popular areas that people go to is the pinout solutions. And we broke this down to camera control units, CCUs. So if you want to do 2-wire or 4-wire connections to a camera, CCU, so that the camera guy uses the native headset, we hopefully have those pinouts. If you get pinouts for something and it's not in my database, by all means, send it to me. I'd love to add it. We also have 2-way radios. One of my biggest pet peeves, oh, no, I don't want to comment. One of my biggest pet peeves, what are you doing? And if I were a politician, I'd make it a federal law that every pinout of every 2-way radio is the same, because it pisses me off how many manufacturers there are. And Motorola, every time they get a new radio, they have a different pinout. So anyway, if you scroll down, we're trying to build this database up. I'd love for you to share it with me if you get some stuff. I don't have any ICOM for some reason. I don't know who Baofeng is, but we definitely have some Motorola and Kenwood in there. I got a feeling Baofeng is probably one that's not allowed in the United States.
You can buy it on Amazon.
You can? It comes straight from North Korea?
Of course, the flow parts
It goes well into
Really? Okay. But if you go to ClearCom devices, I also break it down to the FOR22, the CCI, the LQ GPIO. But then if you scroll down here, I've got the 2-wire pinouts and the 4-wire. So what's 4-wire, you may ask? Come on. If I scroll down on this guy, here's the pinouts for that. So you probably look at the back of an LQ, Arcadia, FreeSpeak 2 base. It's got those RJ45s, and you probably might go, well, initially it's like, oh, that must be an IP. It's not IP. If you take that Ethernet cable and you cut off one end, that's the pinout that you would have for audio. It's balanced audio, analog audio, plain and simple. Why are we using RJ45? Because I can put a bunch of RJ45s on a single board with no problem. Whereas XLR takes up a lot of space. So if you look at that pinout, white, orange, orange, pin 1 and 2, and then white, brown, brown, pin 7 and 8, that's just RS422 data. Why would I have data on there? Well, that's because our old panels, and we still support this, if you do a 4-wire connection from a panel to a frame, it's using those pins for the panel to tell the system what it wants to do. So I flip up a listen key, it tells the frame, I want to listen to this source. That's how it communicates. But after that, all you care about is pins 3, 4, 5, and 6, the green and blue pins. That is analog audio, positive and negative. So if you buy a new Arcadia, it comes with one of these cables. And if you look at it, it has a male and a female. The standard audio operation going in and out of an audio mixer. Okay? That's all it is. So this allows you to go to an audio mixer, to your iPhone to get music into the system, whatever you want. And on the Arcadia, it comes with a cable, or just like I did for many years working at CBS, make your own. Just literally take in fact, I used old phone blocks. You know those punch down blocks the old PBX systems had? I would use old phone blocks. I would take RJ45 to a phone block, and then from there take it to an XLR cable in the studio, just because it was easier to do that versus soldering. I hated soldering. And if you scroll down even further, I even have the pin out that shows you how to make your own cable. So make sure you bookmark this puppy. This is going to be helpful. So back to your question. Say your question one more time.
Duplex audio you're talking about.
Duplex audio and one RJ.
Pinouts.
So with stage announce, that is only output and it's balanced audio.
Okay, that takes 3 wires.
Well, it's 3, but it's got a ground on there. So yeah, it's positive, negative, and ground.
Right.
Yes. That's still called 4-wire in our nomenclature.
Okay, because that implies duplex to me.
It does imply that, but stage announce out is basically it's half of a 4-wire because it's just an output. And you'll notice on 4-wire, when you do this, in and out for the same port 4-wire is send and receive, and it's using 4 copper lines to make it happen. Whereas with stage announce, yeah, it's technically a balanced output. Program in is balanced input.
If it's balanced, though, it takes 5. A plus and minus for one channel, a plus and minus for the other channel, and a return, a ground.
Well, in this case, I'm just talking about your standard XLR balanced line, where it's just a positive, negative, and ground input, or about SA is just your output, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Any questions on 4-wire? Have we learned anything yet? I hope so. All right, so any other questions on HelixNet?
So if you have a belt pack, the connectivity is Cat 6?
You talking about a HelixNet belt pack? Yes. Cat 6, Cat 5, whatever you want.
Not XLR in the system.
Okay, there is XLR if you want to do a thing called Powerline. So on the old HelixNet main station, there is an XLR and it says digital Powerline. And that's basically taking an XLR cable, sending voltage, 30 volts, I believe, and is it, 60. I'm sorry, yeah, because these Beltpacks do suck a lot of juice.
It really lets the smoke out of things that are plugged in.
Yeah. As they say, it'll be a shocking experience if you touch it wrong. 60 volts, thank you. And the amperage is also, I think, a little bit higher, if I'm not mistaken. I don't recall. But with Powerline, it's doing power over the XLR and a digital line or communication over one of those pins. We do support that with Arcadia, but it's not built into it natively. We didn't have room to add Powerline on the back. But, and I'm going to show you this later, we have a new box that you can throw down that does the Powerline over Ethernet. I'll show you that later. Any other questions?
Is that adapter from RJ45 to XLR, is that shielded? And is that solid or is it stranded?
So you don't need to have shielded. It's just a standard. In fact, you don't even have to use the stranded or it's just basic. To be honest with you, you could take an XLR cable if you wanted and somehow get that into the RJ45. And normally you keep a shorter distance because there is no ground. 4-wire doesn't have ground in it. So normally people will keep it on a shorter distance. But honestly, it doesn't need to be shielded. It doesn't need to be anything special. Hello.
Since it's a balanced signal, it would have common mode rejection.
Yeah, so generally speaking, it'll work fine. Any other questions? Yep.
You said I know this is an older system, but the HelixNet power line, you said it's pushing digital. Is that like AS3 or?
Actually, I don't know. I've never asked that question. I've never been asked that. So, what is the audio that's going over that digital power line?
What digital
Let's
audio protocol is it using?
Yeah.
It's proprietary because it's
Yeah.
a channel. That's all 12.
I'm pretty sure it's proprietary, which is probably why I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. It's either a 12 or 24 channel muxed signal,
Yeah.
digital signal.
Any other questions?
You don't see that very much anymore, right? It's mostly just IP or wireless.
Yeah, I'd say I see less power line now that more places are putting in IP infrastructure. A lot of this was for like old facilities that only had XLRs everywhere, wanted to update from Encore. So I don't see much of it anymore.
Would you say there's a reliability difference between power line versus an RJ45?
The one difference is that usually with Powerline, people are daisy chaining. Because if you look at the back of a HelixNet belt pack, I'm sorry, I'm incorrect. For some reason, I thought there was a loop through. So the problem is that you've got on the output of the DX Powerline box, it's one XLR, which means you've got maybe a Y cable times 5. Well, that's, to me, a problem. Whereas if I take this, it's only going to a hub or a switch directly and not passing through anything else. So I look at power over Ethernet more important, as a better path than XLR. But I also understand some situations. In fact, the lighting spot guys are usually the places where they'll put the power line. Because if they lose comms, who cares? I'm so glad there's no lighting guys. Last time I did this training, there was 3 or 4 lighting guys, and I didn't know until after the end. Sorry. But they understood. Any other questions? I feel like audio engineers and lighting guys are like firefighters and police officers. It's just friendly ribbing, and yeah, it's more fun that way though. All right, belt packs and charges. We're going to dig into wireless now. So we've got 2 flavors of FreeSpeak 2. One is the 1.9 gigahertz, one is 2.4 gigahertz. 1.9 is probably the bread and butter of what we sell. That's going to be used in pretty much every situation. The only reason you'll use 2.4 is because of the RF environment. And it's one of 2 things. Either 1.9 is already used up and you just need something different, or it's a multipath environment. Who here knows what multipath is? Yeah. Mr. Chris here is going to. Do you want to explain it? Do you mind me explaining where you are? Well, maybe you explain where you're from, because I'm going to use you as examples.
We're a NASA facility where we have it's a massive metal building, open space with a very large body of water in the middle of it. That 40 feet deep, 200 feet long, 100 feet wide. So it's really hard to get signals around that.
Remind me, how many gallons of water?
6.2 million gallons of water.
I've got that at home.
If you leave your faucet running for a while. We tested the 1.9 megahertz belt packs. What we ran into is they'd work wonderfully right here. If you took 2 steps to the side, we'd lose it. And that was, we were having multipath problems. Basically dead spots throughout on pool deck. We could look across, see the transceiver, but we'd lose signals. We tried out the 2.4, and we have a FreeSpeak plant. We're bringing an Edge plant online now too, and they work beautifully in that environment.
So let's explain what multipath is. I'm going to use, their building is a great example. You got a metal ceiling and a reflective surface of a pool. Well, that is a multipath disaster. Another great example of multipath would be US Bank Stadium up in Minneapolis, where the Vikings play. So if you think about it, you're at the 50-yard line. You got a wireless belt pack on. It is transmitting omnidirectional. And this transceiver is over on the sideline. Guess what? It's sending and receiving omnidirectional. So my belt pack, I start transmitting. It is going straight to that transceiver. But then, guess what? It's also bouncing off the roof and coming down and hitting that transceiver. So the transceiver sees 2 signals that are identical, but one is delayed. When it sees that delayed signal, it goes, I don't know what to do, and it just drops the bits. It doesn't transmit it. So the person on the other end hears, because the system just can't handle it. That's multipath. It's similar, as an audio engineer, to turning up a large sound system and having echo. How do you handle that? Well, you've got your little tips and tricks. Well, in our case, wireless frequencies, the voodoo that it is, 1.9 gigahertz hates multipath. I don't know why, it just hates it. And I think it's just the way that, how big of a wave it is. Yet 2.4 is a smaller wave on RF side. It likes it. It appreciates it. It actually uses it to its benefit. So in the case of the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, they're using 2.4 gigahertz, or for many years they were using 2.4. The problem is what else is in 2.4? Wi-Fi. Lighting systems are using 2.4. Wireless cameras. So 2.4 is very limited. And by the way, the 2.4 only has, I believe, 12 channels in total. So you're very limited in how much you can actually put in the RF space. So in 1.9, that's why it is the most used, because generally speaking, nobody's using it. As far as the Beltpacks go, it does come with a BAT60, which gives you about 18 hours of talk time. That will slowly dwindle, as any lithium-ion battery will do. You can buy a second battery and put it in the charger for backup, or it does allow you to do AA batteries just by popping open that door, and you'll see you could do 3 of them. I would argue you should never be doing that. I think at the end of 18 hours and your battery being dead, it's time to go home and eat dinner. And if you tell a producer that you could do this, they'll take advantage of it. So don't do that. Just go home. Don't buy the extra batteries, in my opinion. I'm sorry, I don't mean to reduce sales.
It's only 80 bucks.
Yeah. But you can buy extra BAT60s, help yourself. And then also, by the way, it's 5 channels. Well, even though there's only A, B, C, D on the top, that reply key also acts as a channel. You can change that from reply to maybe talking point to point to somebody else if you want. So keep that in mind. It's technically 5 channels.
Quick question, please. Back to the frequencies. The number of, at 1.9, there's the number of Beltpacks increases.
Yep.
How much?
So on the old E1 transceivers, which is FreeSpeak 2 base, you can do 25 Beltpacks in 1 RF space.
At that frequency.
On 1.9 gigahertz, yeah. With the new IP transceiver, which is this guy, which also works with Arcadia, you can do 50 Beltpacks in 1 RF space.
One transceiver, 50 Beltpacks.
Well, no. I'm talking about the whole system. So 25 whole system FreeSpeak 2 base, but only 10 per transceiver. I'm sorry, 5. Sorry. On the E1 system, 25 max, 5 per transceiver. On the IPTs, 50 Beltpacks total, 10 per transceiver.
And the transceivers have their own dedicated RJ45 form factor connector in?
Yes.
Okay.
On the E1, it is a home run to the base station or the Arcadia. On the IPT, it goes to a switch. A managed switch is the key here, and we'll talk about that later.
Justin does have very expensive ways to increase the Beltpack count also.
A very expensive way, yes. It involves the FCC getting involved, and it's a pain in the butt, but I can do it. Yep.
I would like to hear more about frequency spectrum management in 2.4, because as you said, it's really congested. For example, like what do the Viking Stadium people do? Do they use 2.4 at their venue?
No, they're using 1.9, but we had to get creative with it. First problem is they're using E1 transceivers. E1 is worse when it comes to multipath compared to our IPTs. We tried to get them to upgrade, but they weren't willing to spend the money. We were even trying to give them some breaks because this works really well. But here's the trick. If you look at that field, they have boxes where the millionaires sit right there on the field. Then above them is the first row of seats. Well, there's a concrete overhang that kind of comes over those boxes. So we figured out that if we get that transceiver under the overhang, it blocked the RF from coming down, which reduced the multipath. Another example where this is, I'm from St. Louis, and where the Rams used to play before Kroenke. I'm not going to go into that, never mind. Just like ripping a Band-Aid off, it pisses me off. So anyway, before Kroenke took the Rams, the Edward Jones Dome there, now it's part of the convention center. They'll have big events in there, and we've had E1 transceivers be brought in by a rental company. One of the tricks for them is literally under the stage, put the transceiver. And it will radiate out across the floor enough to get to the Beltpack with no problem, but it stops the multipath because it is a dome, it's a steel roof. And so the multipath there was horrible. But how do you set up a system in the middle of the field? Because it's like a concert venue at this point. So that's another trick. There have been some people that will use pizza pans over top of it. I haven't seen that work very well. Personally, I don't think it's worth it. It's better to use larger concrete or steel things to put it under to cover it.
Cool. Sorry, that's cool for 1.9 management,
Yep.
but in a situation where you do choose to use 2.4 or are forced to use 2.4 because like Blair leading up the spectrum or something, is the FreeSpeak just transmitting over all 8 channels at 2.4 and it just kind of...
Yeah, it's frequency hopping.
Okay.
Yeah,
so-
you can't frequency coordinate.
Gotcha. You kind of just have to pray
Yeah.
that someone else isn't gonna stomp all over you.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
Or frequency coordinate with the IT guys and tell them, hey, can you just turn off your 2.4, which they'll just tell you no.
Are there examples of like large scale productions that do have to use 2.4 where like a frequency coordinator will say like up to a bunch of people to turn off their Wi-Fi?
Well, the NBL actually is a great example of one where they used it. Most productions otherwise don't.
So it's really just like the last ditch effort
Yep.
kind of thing. It's
Yep.
just there in case you desperately need it.
Exactly. That's where I think you might want to consider 5 gigahertz though. And we're going to talk about that too. All right, as far as the FreeSpeak 2 Beltpacks, that is the charging station. You could do up to 5 of them, and you could charge those backup batteries as you want. And as far as the transceivers go, E1 is the one that I mentioned earlier. You can do a total of 25 Beltpacks on an E1 system, 5 per transceivers. And keep in mind that E1 is not IP. Even though it's an RJ45, it is a home run from that transceiver to the Arcadia or the FreeSpeak 2 base. Keep that in mind. It is not IP. And it will go about 700 to 1,000 feet, no problem. This is the splitter for the E1. So you could do 2 splitters on one system, which then gives you a total of 10 transceivers. So some people will go, well, wait a minute. If you have 5 Beltpacks per transceivers, you don't need 10 transceivers. Well, the whole point of this is to create your own little cell network in a way. So think about it today. When you drive home, you are going to call the girlfriend, the wife, the boyfriend, whoever it is. Well, you're going to be hopping from one cell tower to the next, to the next, to the next, and they're all timed together. Well, they created that network to make sure you can hop and never lose connection. You're doing the same thing with our system. You're creating your own small cell network in a way for your Beltpacks. So that's why we allow you to do up to 10 transceivers just on an E1 system. Yep.
Does that mean that you would recommend putting it in some kind of a pattern?
Yep.
What would that be?
So usually that pattern would be, first of all, let's think about a production.
Right, so you got scaffold in the back, maybe for projectors, you got stuff on the side, you got front of house.
Yep.
So how would you set that up?
So the first thing I always think about is, what are the main areas that we need to cover? And then when they roam from one area to another. So if you have one front of house, that will cover basically everybody there. You got your, and usually that's where the scaffolding is, I guess. Then you got at least one backstage, stage left, stage right, maybe center, maybe one in front of the stage. What if somebody needs to go around front so they can...
Radius on one of those?
About 1,000 feet.
Okay.
But, think about if you get stuff in the way. So if you go from backstage to front of stage, well, chances are you've got those massive screens, the LED walls. Well, that's going to block RF. So keep that in mind. Then also we think about from a rental perspective, when all 25, 30, 40 Beltpacks are lit up at the same time and they have their group meeting, they're all going to be looking at their Beltpack. Oh, it doesn't work. Well, that's because I only have 2 transceivers. I don't have the capacity. Well, people don't think of that. They think of like their cell phone. It should just work. So when you think about a production, go, oh, at the beginning and end of the show, we're going to have 30 to 40 people in this one area. Well, let me add 3 transceivers there, just to have the capacity. But then once they start spreading out, they'll all spread to the different transceivers.
So like when you do a rental, you only get maybe 2, right, with the kit.
Yeah.
So you need to get extra ones if you're going to start.
That's what I would recommend, yeah. I mean, that allows you to charge more money, right? No, maybe. Oh.
They don't switch to another transceiver until they get dropouts from the transceiver they're currently connected to, so it doesn't ping pong back.
So yeah, let's talk about that. That's a good point. How does it roam? How does it determine when to switch from one to the next? So in the Beltpack, there's actually a site survey mode that you can look at. And it shows you what transceiver you're on, shows you the RSSI level and the error rate. So it looks at the RSSI and it goes, oh, I'm looking pretty good. And as it goes along, as the RSSI goes down, it doesn't switch because it sees another antenna that's better. It just keeps looking at the RSSI and error. And as soon as you start seeing more error rates, that's when it goes, all right, I think it's time to jump. If it went strictly off of RSSI and who's got the best signal, these things would be hopping all over the place and the system gets overburdened. So that's one thing to keep in mind as well. Thank you.
How does it know that there is another better?
So every transceiver has a beacon on it, and it's always transmitting that beacon going, look, here's who I am, come and join me. And then the Beltpack makes the determination while it's talking to the base station. There's a lot of smarts in each Beltpack.
So if the E1 transceiver is full with 5 Beltpacks connected to it, the 6th one comes into that area, and one of these also has access to another transceiver, will it cause that to bounce then?
No. No. The Beltpack itself is determining if it should jump based off of its own error rate. It doesn't jump because somebody else is trying to join or anything, and it doesn't kick anybody off. Each Beltpack is individual of the next, as far as its determination.
So the only way to force that would be to turn off that other one,
Yeah.
let this one join, and then
Yeah.
re-energize that one.
Yeah. Now, in our FreeSpeak Edge product line, we do have the ability to say this Beltpack can't go to this transceiver. So you can actually say, hey, this one person just should never go here because they're not important
So
enough.
you can define or restrict.
You can. It's basically a blacklist that you can set up. But it's not in FreeSpeak 2. We've requested that, but it hasn't happened yet.
Is it Arcadia?
No, it's only in Eclipse at the moment. I'm sure it's going to be coming to Arcadia, though.
Requested it for Arcadia because I do a lot of college and high school sports, and the basketball arena and the stadium are all fired up, and all of a sudden you've got basketball Beltpacks connecting to the football stadium's transceivers. So we have to separate that, so that's on the list.
Any other questions? Oh, yeah, you had one.
And just to recap, you said this at the beginning, but 2 of those splitters can plug into the 2 antenna ports on a FreeSpeak.
Correct.
And you have for a max.
And Arcadia.
Yeah, for a max of 10.
Yes.
Great.
And then 25 Beltpacks total. Anything else? Yep, we're good. All right, then that takes us to the IPT. So the IP transceiver uses AS67 audio over IP back to the Arcadia or the Eclipse frame. And it's because of that AS67 audio why you have to use a proper managed switch. It's also how we were able to double the capacity. So there's been a lot of people asking, well, how the heck did you double capacity? The FCC didn't give you more frequencies. So let's dig into that for just a moment. I had to think long and hard about how to explain this. But if I were to go to clearcom.com, I go to my download center, I look up IPT, and I pull up the data sheet. Where is it? There it is. So if I look at the data sheet, down on the second page, I have the frequencies for each region. So if I look at the US as an example, it is 1.9 gigahertz is the general frequencies, but specifically it is 1920 through 1930 megahertz. That's 10 time slots. I really wish we had more. Europe gets a lot more. What do they get? 1880 to 1900? They get 20 channels, jerks. We only get 10. So how does this work? Well, in E1, the way I like to explain this, I hope this isn't permanent marker. I look at it like a highway. Think about one big highway between Austin and Houston. You got this long highway. And in E1, we basically said, well, the audio transmission on that, because the E1 is basically a European standard from years and years and years ago. That's how they transmitted things over telephones and such. Well, it's a lower audio quality. So we had to stick with only 25 Beltpacks within E1. But then when IPT came along, we were using AS67 audio. The cool thing about AS67 is it's broadcast quality audio. That's number one, so it's high quality. Number two, it's low latency. So that's amazing. That's better than E1, in fact. So by using that, we're able to get higher quality, which means you take that frequency, you take that lane, and you cut it down. So think of it like this. We've got this highway. These are dotted lines. I shouldn't have put that. So this is E1. Well, then we went in and we said, oh, hey, we still only have 10 channels. What if we cut it up and double our capacity? So we literally went in with a paint truck from Texas State and we added more lanes. It's a tighter fit, but by having more lanes, we can now put in more Beltpacks. We could put more cars on the road. We could put more trucks on the road. That's basically what we did. We just cut up that pie and just put more Beltpacks. It makes me think of the Seinfeld episode. I'm watching Seinfeld again, actually, as I travel a lot. And there's that episode where Kramer took paint thinner because he adopted a highway and he got rid of the lines. And so people are going back and forth. Think of it, it's the opposite of what Kramer did. Rather than taking lanes out, we actually added more lanes. So we could double or triple or however many, the capacity is bigger. That's basically what we did with it.
Sounds like Houston.
They didn't increase the width, they just added more lanes. Yeah, it does sound like Houston, I guess.
Any drawbacks?
No, we haven't had any drawbacks to that. The audio quality is the same, if not a tad bit better because of AS67. And the Beltpack doesn't change. The audio, you have to change the codec on here. So if you take this from an E1 to an AS67, it does require a reboot to go to the new codec or the other one. But other than that, it works great.
So you're saying that if you had a setup where you had some of the transceivers AS61 and then some of them as the E1s, you would not be able to take a Beltpack and freely walk around in it to connect to the different ones?
No, you will not be able to do that. It is a completely different animal altogether. You have to reboot it to go to the other one. So on the Arcadia, you can do E1 and IPTs at the same time. It'll warn you, hey, be careful. But they better be in two complete different RF zones and different Beltpacks for each side. In fact, that's the other problem. If you put E1 and IPTs in the same RF room, you will have problems. Because E1 is using a wider channel, whereas this IPT is using a smaller size of that. So you're going to have RF interference. It's just going to be a nightmare.
Just to recap, just with the E1s and the IPTs, if you want to max out the total amount of Beltpacks you can have, you would need 5 of either one.
Yes, you would.
So 5 IPTs or 5 E1s.
That would be correct.
You should probably mention the sync on the transceivers also.
Absolutely. So he just mentioned sync. So who here uses Dante? A lot of you? Yeah, so that's using AS67 audio. It requires proper sync. I'm going to dig into Dante later. I'm not going to talk about that right now. But because this is using AS67, it uses something called PTP. Anybody know what PTP is?
Precision time protocol.
That is correct. Most people say peer-to-peer, point-to-point, precision time protocol, PTP. So, what is PTP? It is a IP-based clock. It came from, I believe, I heard somebody tell me from NASDAQ or from the stock exchange, because there was a guy that would submit a trade in New York, and then another guy would submit a trade in New Jersey at the same exact moment, but guess who won the trade by a half a second or less? The guy in New York, because he was literally down the street from the stock exchange. So they created PTP, which uses GPS, if needed, to time them, which means everything's timestamped at the same exact moment and it's faster. So we use PTP, we meaning the royal we, meaning manufacturers, use PTP for AS67 audio to keep everything timed. Because it has to be precisely timed, otherwise it will fall apart. And Dante uses PTP. That's why I mentioned them. So the AS67 stream that we have going to every transceiver uses precision time protocol, so it has to be properly timed, not only to the Arcadia, but you could then use an external clock for it. We'll dig into the PTP later. We're also going to later talk about networking to support Dante, PTP, and all the other stuff. I will warn you, I'm probably going to badmouth Dante a little bit, only because of a few of the tricks that they've done to make their system work better that has in turn hurt me as a manufacturer and hurts you in the process. So I'm going to badmouth them, but I'm also going to say they're awesome. They're great. They help you out and they help us out, but in the networking world they do kind of hurt some people in the process. forewarned on that. All right, any other questions? Any other things I should cover there? This is why I like having more people here.
When there's multiple base stations, you can be coordinating the two base stations together with the sync port on the back.
Yeah, so the sync port, you guys have seen it on the FreeSpeak 2 base or on the Arcadia. There's a sync port. That's only for E1. That is not for IPT. Keep that in mind. So what does the sync port do? I'll explain that here in a minute because I'm going to show the Arcadia and explain that. Yep.
So you are going to talk more about coordinating multiple.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Nope. Nope. Nothing else?
If you have, when you're talking about different IPTs, you know, in like an arena or something, are you able to adjust their range, their broadcast range? Or is it
Yes.
just set?
There's a high, medium, and low setting for IP transceivers. I think that might be in the E1s as well. But you can reduce that bubble of how far it'll go out, which is another trick we'll use for multipath, by the way.
Okay.
What's the radiation pattern of the transceivers for mounting?
Good question. So if you were to open this guy up, you would see that the antenna is at here. It's a vertical and horizontal, and it's just on a board. And if you look at the polar pattern, it's mostly hot here and back here, and with a little bit of a donut going around it like this. But it's honestly, if you just hang it at about 10 feet high, away from a wall always helps to radiate out a little further, you'll be fine. Since it's omnidirectional, it goes pretty far on that. Any other questions?
So the pro or con of putting it flush up on the ceiling?
So that will mostly radiate straight up and straight down. It won't go out as far. So on a catwalk, I would probably, like if you are hanging a lighting system and you're just putting an IPT with the lights, let's say, there's a couple things to keep in mind. First of all, I would hang it like this, but maybe downward a little bit, just to kind of spread it out further. The other thing you need to keep in mind is keep it away from, what are those moving lights called? I can't remember, it doesn't matter. But those big moving lights that have motors inside of them, keep it away from those. Those motors are just, they spill so much RF. They're disgusting. It will affect the RF on this. Anything else? Okay. So that's the IPT. We'll dig into the networking part of that later. Then it takes us to FreeSpeak Edge. This is a new product that came out. Unfortunately, it was released the day Houston shut down for COVID. In fact, I was in Houston. Pop quiz. Here's another good one for those that like to go to trivia night at the local bar. Did you know that NRG Stadium, you probably know this, but NRG Stadium is owned by the Houston Rodeo, not the Houston Texans? Like, the Houston Rodeo is just made of millionaires, and it's weird to me. So we were at NRG Stadium the day the governor shut down Texas, and we had to get out. And unfortunately, that's as far as Edge went for a long time. For the next 2 years, you guys weren't buying it for obvious reasons, and we stopped production and work on it. Well, now we are back up and running. We are selling it, but it needs to be used in very specific locations. It's not meant for you to deploy like 1.9. And here's why. First of all, it's using 5 gigahertz. What else uses 5 gigahertz? Wireless cameras, Wi-Fi. Now, here's the good thing. 5 gigahertz gives you 25 channels. That's a significant increase from 2.4 gigahertz. That's the reason why we picked it. Number 2, this is not frequency hopping. The 1.9 gigahertz system is frequency hopping using DECT. This is not. You can actually coordinate. So I'm going to use you guys again, if you don't mind. Neutral Buoyancy Lab. They switched from 2.4 to 5 gigahertz. And their IT department, if I recall, was like, whoa, it's 5 gigahertz, we're using that. Well, guess what? He's able to go to their IT department and say, well, guys, there's 25 channels. You don't use all 25. In fact, you're probably using 5 or 6 at the most. Can we just coordinate? And so, and the cool thing is in an access point, and you could do this, by the way, at home. You can literally log into your modem from AT&T, Cox, whoever it is that you're using. You can actually pick the channel in 5 gigahertz. So they went to the IT and they said, hey, we just want these channels. Blacklist these so you don't use them. we'll blacklist the ones that you're using, and we can work together, and you can actually play along in the same sandbox. And when you when you hop from one transceiver to the next, you just need to make sure you're hopping from one frequency to another. You can't go from the same to the same. That's not the way it works. So if you plan it out, you can actually go out, deploy a pretty large 5 gigahertz system, and plan accordingly. It's just so, in fact, we went out and we actually did a whole site survey. We used a piece of software that from a third party. We walked around and did a whole survey of the room to figure out what was being used. And then from there, we actually have our 5 gigahertz transceiver in the database of this software, and we dropped it on the map, and it created a heat map to show me how far it thinks it might go. Because 5 gigahertz doesn't go near as far as 1.9. 1.9, if I put this transceiver here, will take me out there, out to the parking lot, into the next room. It'll take me out to the front parking lot. 5 gigahertz, it'll barely leave this room. It'll go into that room, but as soon as you close that door, you're going to run into problems. So 5 gigahertz is not meant to be like the replacement of 1.9 to FreeSpeak 2. It's meant to be an add-on, and for very specific situations. And the NBL is a great example because it's a multipath environment. This works perfect in multipath. US Bank Stadium would be a great one for us to try it at. But I don't think the NFL will let us because the NFL uses 5 gigahertz for the crowd. And they make money off of it. So good luck telling the NFL not to give up some money. That's not happening. The Beltpack is pretty awesome. It's got 8 buttons, similar to another manufacturer. It's got a color display. It's got a reply key. It's got 4 volumes. It's got your encoders on the side. I thought I had one here. Yep. It's got your encoders on the side and volume here. It's also got your master volume on the bottom. Of course, you got to have the flashlight still, so we still have that. USB-C for charging or for updates, and then your XLR connection here. But the final thing that people love is the fact that it's got a speaker, a microphone and a speaker, so you could just set it on the desk, take your headset off for lunch. The battery is different, and this is, by the way, when I usually get a round of applause. No more battery door. It's built into it. Oh, and by the way, here's another time when I get, and even though this isn't my fault, we also redesigned the battery door for the FreeSpeak 2, if you haven't noticed. If you get a door, in fact, I got one here that's got the old door. Yeah, that's a pain in the butt. If yours snaps, let me know. We can get you some new doors. I know it's a pain in the butt. But we redesigned this one so it's an easier door to open, and then the FreeSpeak Edge does not have a door. The battery is built into it. Keep in mind that the battery does have a shorter life on it, 12 hours instead of the 18. I still think you should be going home after 12 hours anyway. So let's just blame it on that. We wanted to help you. You can buy extra batteries. The battery is bigger, and the charging station is smaller. It's only 4 bays, unfortunately. So here's what happened. You're probably like, well, are you just trying to get more money? What's going on? The reason for this is because the battery is bigger. There's a lot more going on in this Beltpack that requires a lot more juice. There's multiple radios, we got Bluetooth, it's just, there's a ton going on. So because we needed a bigger battery, we had to figure out the charging situation, and the key thing that we determined to help you, because a lot of you are out doing rental systems, you're bringing a kit from your office out to a facility, or somebody's shipping it to you. Well, how many times have they forgotten the power supply for the FreeSpeak 2 charger? Plenty, I'm sure. Well, guess what? That power supply is only for the FreeSpeak 2 charging station, nothing else in the ClearCom product line. Well, here's the problem. You forget that, now you're not charging your batteries and you're going off of whatever's left. So we made the decision that this needs to use the same power supply that's used for Arcadia, LQ, FreeSpeak 2 base. But unfortunately, that charging or that power supply is not big enough to charge 5 of these batteries at the same time. So we opted to reduce the size, but keep the same battery or power supply for you. I hope you don't mind that we made that decision. I think you can afford a few more charging stations, in my opinion. As far as the transceiver, it is the same as the IPT, uses AES67 audio. You can do 10 Beltpacks per transceiver. The difference though is, again, it's 5 gigahertz, and we've outboarded the antennas. Because with 5 gigahertz, we need to give you the option to try and put in directional or high power antennas. We can't provide high power antennas. The FCC specifically says this is what we're allowed to sell, and we can't support anything else. But if you go buy this and you take it out and you decide to use a high powered antenna, hey, go at it, that's not my problem. You deal with the FCC. So we at least give you the option to change out those omnidirectional whips. And you'll note it's not 1,000 feet. It's much shorter depending on the situation. Now, if you're in a multipath environment, you can go 1,000 feet, no problem. US Bank, when we tested it there, we were able to put it at the 50-yard line, and we walked everywhere in that facility. But in a facility like this, yeah, you're barely getting out the door. Any questions? Yep.
Is that edge style Beltpack going to make its way into the 1.9 and 2.4 land eventually?
Great question. Not into 2.4. We don't do a lot of 2.4. It is definitely being developed as we speak to do 1.9.
And do these new edge ones, are they the ones that do the Bluetooth?
So the FreeSpeak 2 Beltpack does have a Bluetooth radio in it. You can get it upgraded. It is a fee at the moment. I don't know what the process is yet. We are going to add Bluetooth to the new Beltpack for 1.9. So again, this is coming in 1.9.
That'll be compatible with the 1.9 IPTs?
Yes, and E1. It'll be compatible with everything.
It's Arcadia only, not FreeSpeak right now.
Oh, it won't do E1?
The
new FreeSpeak 2?
Beltpack will not work with the FreeSpeak.
Oh, so that means it won't do E1 then. Unless maybe it does E1, but maybe it's just the FreeSpeak 2 base won't have the support. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yes, so it'll do E1 from what I recall from engineering. It's just FreeSpeak 2 base won't support it. Because that's a firmware update in the FreeSpeak 2 base. And let's be honest, at some point, FreeSpeak 2 base is going to go end of life because you have Arcadia. Why do you need that base station? So, but Edge base will support it.
Yeah.
I'm expecting we're going to start field trials of this with 1.9 by end of year. So come January, February, 1.9 in this guy. That's also when I get another round of applause, but not from this crowd. All right. What's that?
It's good because Polaro's getting more popular by the day.
It is. I know. That's why that's one of the biggest responses we've got to it. Yeah.
Good.
And then just very quickly, again, this is probably going to be end of life here in the coming years, but the FreeSpeak 2 base, you do have 2 versions of it. It's a license. You can either do a 5 Beltpack version or a 25 Beltpack version. If you get out there on a show and you only have a 5 Beltpack version, the way you're going to figure that out is when you go and connect Beltpacks and all of a sudden my 6th one won't connect. What's going on? It doesn't scream at you that you've got only a 5 license. And trust me, I can't tell you how many times over the years I've gotten a weekend phone call from one of my sales managers going, do you have a license? Unfortunately, I don't have licenses just sitting there for you because the license is tied to the serial number of that device. So just a heads up, if you get out on production and you're doing FreeSpeak 2 base and only the 6th one won't connect, good luck. I hope it's not a Saturday or Sunday because I have to talk to the factory, and if there's nobody there, I got nothing. I can't help you.
So are there rental houses renting out 5 days?
For some reason, yes. I don't know why. Hand to God, I don't understand. I wish I could give you more information on why they would do that. Any questions? I know we're moving quick here. What time is it? Awesome, we're doing great. Then we go to the LQ. Who here has used an LQ? I'm curious. Yeah, just a few? This is a very, very powerful tool. It is something that I think everybody should have in their back pocket at all times. I got a couple of them up here. I've got a full 1RU version and the smaller throwdown. But I usually refer to it as our Swiss Army knife of comms. In fact, it is so powerful in what it can do that Riedel and RTS, when they do new installs and they beat us out on a bid, which, hey, that happens, what they'll actually do is the customer will go, hey, I need an iPhone connection or I need to do IP connection over the internet to another system. They'll say, I'll just go buy the LQ. because it just makes it easy for them to do that. So Swiss Army knife, that means it can do radios, two-way radios over the internet. It can integrate SIP phone systems. The list goes on. It does so many different things. It's basically a gateway from other devices into your comm system. So what do we've got? As far as the throwdown version, we've got 3 of them. You've got a 2-wire version, which means you could take a throwdown and connect it to the internet. It phones home to your system, and then you throw down a couple of 2-wire Beltpacks, and you're in business just by connecting it to the internet. By the way, this will power your 2-wire Beltpacks, usually around 8 to 10 of them at the most. So if you're thinking like maybe it's a football game, and you just need a camera guy on the side of the field to get 2-wire, you could throw down the LQ, give them a Beltpack IP connection back, you're done. 4-wire version, same idea, and then you got your 4-wire with GPIO. A couple years ago, before I came to ClearComm, again, I was working for CBS in St. Louis. They were paying, I think they told me like $2,000 or $3,000 a month for a copper line from KMOV's studio, which is across the street from the Arch, to the top of US Bank Tower, which was, I think, the largest building in St. Louis, to go to a 2-way radio for our helicopter. And they were paying $2,000 a month, maybe $3,000 for the past, I don't know, 30 years or something like that, however long they had the helicopter. And that was so they could get audio to and from the radio and do a push-to-talk GPO to the 2-way radio. So my boss called me in, he said, Justin, call ClearComm, figure out a way. Well, they just released the LQ GPIO. So I bought one of those for $2,500 at the time. It was still pretty cheap compared to today. I threw that guy, it just sat on the internet, and as soon as I pushed a button anywhere in the station, it keyed that 2-way radio. So I paid for that box within a month. So the cool thing is like TV Globo. They use this to do 2-way radio around the world. So when TV Globo does the Olympics, they'll deploy 2-way radios in the stadium. But using a panel, an Arcadia even, in Brazil, they're able to key a 2-way radio in Paris on the side of the field. So it's very, very simple to deploy. We also have the 1RU versions, just like I have here. What I have here is the LQR2W4. It's basically four channels of 2-wire. Again, it can power Beltpacks locally and give you 4 different channels. You've got the R4W8, which is just 8 ports of 4-wire, or you've got the 8 ports of 4-wire with GPIO. That one on the bottom has become pretty popular also with our military customers, being able to key 2-ways, because they use that they use a lot of 2-ways, and they're probably never going to leave that behind. Another cool thing about the 1RU is you can mix and match. You could take maybe 4 ports of 2-wire and 4 ports of GPIO. Or maybe it's just 4-wire and 2-wire, whatever you want. We have multiple part numbers for this. Just check out our website if you think there's something you want to try out. As far as other features that are within the box, outside of the physical ports, we also have linking. So you could take an LQ, and let's use Omega Broadcasting as an example. So let's say Omega wants to set up an LQ in-house, and they want to be able to do Agent IC SIP connections for external productions that they're doing for a production. They could take this LQ, stick it on their network, and then have up to 6 other LQs connect back to it. So think of it like a hub and spoke kind of deal. And the cool thing about that is when you do the linking, you can route audio from any LQ to another LQ any way you want. And you have all these channels, and you could just very easily, with one login, it uses a web GUI, with one login, you can sit there and route audio anywhere you want. Another fascinating thing that I've also heard, oh, DoorDash is here. Hello? Yeah. Yeah, can you come around back? You should see a red door in the back here. All right, thanks. Of course, Mr. Franklin just walked. Do you mind? Thank you.
So the LQ can talk directly to the Arcadia.
Yes.
So if I have an Arcadia, I don't need an LQ in house.
That's correct. You can do an IVC trunk, is what they call it, and I'm going to cover that later. But you can do IVC IP linking from an LQ to the Arcadia.
So you said phone home. So if I send that out in the field in a fly pack or something like that, do I need to rely on somebody on the field to do any IP programming for that one?
No. So as long as you have it set up.
It has a public-facing IP, I'm good?
So the key is wherever it's phoning home to, wherever home is, the key is for it to have a dedicated IP address or VPN connection. And once you have that established, it never changes. As soon as that remote field LQ gets internet, it'll just I need to go here, and it'll just phone home and get it done. As soon as it powers up and as soon as it gets internet. It's just the home needs to have a lot of configuration set up properly. Awesome. You guys hungry yet? God, I hope you are. There's a lot. Then it also hosts Agent IC. Who here has used Agent IC? It's the iPhone or Android app. Just a few of you? Man, we're definitely going to blow your minds later. Whew. So Agent IC is the iPhone or Android app. Please download it now if you want. It's a free download. You can use it. In fact, when you connect to the demo system, it connects to our system in Carlsbad at our factory. And it's funny because on Saturday nights, if you're listening in, it's usually then Sunday morning in Singapore, and there's a church that uses it for free for comms. I don't understand. Yeah. So anyway, cheap. I don't understand. So Agent IC is a free download. You can use the demo system, and you can use it for LQ or Eclipse. At some point, Arcadia will support it. We're going to play around with Agent IC later during our lab, so you can see how it connects to our cloud. It also does Station IC, which is the PC or Mac version of Agent IC. It also does SIP. Well, you see here a Cisco phone. That's a SIP phone. There's no old PBXs anymore. Everything is SIP. Everything's digitized now. Well, you could take that LQ and it can act as if it's got 8 different phones built into it. It can take 8 different phone numbers. You could connect it to Cisco, Mitel, but since a lot of people are going away from phone systems internally, you can actually connect this to a cloud SIP server. So like, for example, Ring Central is one that I'm quite familiar with. I have a few accounts with. And I think this LQ might actually be connecting to Ring Central. So you could go to Ring Central, buy a phone number, connect this to the cloud, and then as soon as you call that number, it picks up the line and puts it into whatever comms channel you want to communicate on. Theaters use that sometimes, where they'll have it so maybe the press box, not the press box, I'm sorry, the box office. They can dial a number and say, hey, you might want to delay the show. There was an accident and there's a lot of people in the parking lot. Well, they literally dialed an extension and talked right to the director without giving them an expensive $2,000 FreeSpeak 2 Beltpack. And then finally, IVC. So IVC, very quickly, IV Core is what we call it. That is a proprietary ClearComm communication. It's an IP-based thing. And the cool thing about IVC is it can go over the internet. It can route 1 million times across the internet. Doesn't matter. IVC is a standard thing that we use a lot. Agent IC uses it. LQ uses it. So it's a very powerful way of getting audio from the field into your system. Any questions? Are you sure? Yep.
So we actually have those exact Cisco phones. We can interface into an existing install, is what you're saying? So
You could, because remind me, do you have LQs?
we don't yet, but we're looking at them.
Okay, so yes, you could use an LQ to act as the gateway to get to your Cisco phone. Not a problem. You just have to talk to IT. I know nobody wants to do that, but you just have to talk to IT, and you say, I just need 1 or 2 or up to 8 extensions.
We currently have an extension. We're hardwired back to the
Oh.
matrix for a PA announcement system. It sounds like we can get rid of all of that.
100%. Yep. The other cool thing is because you're using Eclipse, and eventually Arcadia will support this, you can dial out as well. You can set up speed dials, whatever you want.
So are LQs as easy to rent as, like FreeSpeak?
There's a decent amount of them in the rental market. I don't know. I can't speak to you guys have them? Yeah. Mr. Omega is saying yes, you can rent them. Yes.
Cool.
Any other questions on the LQ?
Is it better if you dial in SIP call on Eclipse? Are you able to take take advantage of the AES-67 audio that way?
Yes.
You get better audio output? Because a lot of times the SIP call quality is obviously bad. Is it still going through their codecs before it hits the LQ or the...
Yeah, it's using a standard SIP protocol or it's nothing's changed on that. I will admit sometimes the quality of a phone call can be determined at a local level on a SIP server. I would argue that the quality is pretty good going to Ring Central generally. But SIP is designed to be low latency, low bandwidth, so you're not going to get the best quality. It's not great. It's not broadcast quality. It's great for comms. It's better than POTS, plain old telephones, not POTS, plain old telephone system. But it's in fact, I'd say a lot of broadcasters, they'll use Agent IC as their primary and then LQ to SIP as a backup. To dial in for IFBs and such. Yeah. Any other questions?
So for being a subsidiary of Amazon, it takes an act of Congress to put something on our network. So on the security side of things, I assume that there's documentation as far as that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of port scans. We check these things all the time. And honestly, we've seen LQs get used in places like Disney, which I would argue is worse than Amazon. We've also used it in the Department of Defense. So generally speaking, there's been no problems with security on it.
The NFL.
The NFL uses it, and they're even worse than the Department of Defense, to be honest with you. Any questions? Who's hungry? Yeah? I am too. I kept this figure well in shape. I need more food. All right. Can you give me just a few minutes? Mike and I are going to get stuff set up. Use the restroom if you'd like. It is 11:30. Let's aim for 12:30 to get going again. We still have a lot to cover. And then we can do our lab. And maybe I could get you out of here at a decent time. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.